All right, it is 6:30, so I'd like to call this regular meeting of Seguin Independent School District to order. And we do have a full quorum. This meeting has been duly called, and notice of this meeting has been posted in accordance with the Texas Opens Meeting Act, Section 551.043 of the Texas Government Code. Mr. Guetta is going to lead us on our pledges this evening.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state under God, one indivisible.
I'll give us all a bit of time for a moment of silence. All right, I forgot to say welcome, everybody. Glad you're here. Just a few more days for most of you. I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Gutierrez for his announcements.
Good evening, trustees and Seguin ISD community. I would like to share a few highlights from the past month as well as some upcoming key dates. Last week, Vogel Elementary students were kind enough to educate me on the finer points of 3D printing design as part of their Hour of Code activities. On Friday night, I had the pleasure of attending Lady Matador basketball game and then Mariachi Winter Wonderland concert. And on Sunday, I saw many of our elementary students perform as part of the Seguin Area Children's Chorus at the Mid-Texas Symphony at TLU. It goes without saying that our students are extremely talented, and I encourage our community to continue to attend performances and games to experience their talent firsthand. The fine arts student performances continue this week, and we have a comprehensive list posted on the district website. We hosted a school boundary rezoning committee meeting on December 2nd and last night to engage our community in the evaluation of our attendance boundaries. The committee of the district residents will meet again on January 13th to continue the important process. Our Matador Special Services Department is again partnering with the San Antonio Food Bank for a food distribution event here at admin. Students in the Matador Transition Program will distribute food at approximately 10:30 a.m. on a first-come, first-served basis. Principals Jay Law and Irma Freeman are hosting an open house to showcase the facility improvements that have been made at Seguin to accommodate our MBLC and DAEP programs. The event is on Monday, January 6th from 4:30 p.m. to 6 p.m. The community is invited to attend and tour the revitalized Seguin facility. Our third community lunch and learn is scheduled for January the 9th, Thursday, from noon to 12:45 here at admin. Our lunch topic will showcase Seguin High School's dynamic career and technical education program. Anyone is welcome to join us for lunch and to learn more about CTE. I wish a safe and blessed winter break to all of our students, staff, and trustees. Happy holidays to our entire Seguin ISD family, and I look forward to seeing you again in 2020. Thank you. Go Matadors.
All right. Briefly, some reports from our board members. I went to a basketball game. I was really happy to see them in action. This is definitely the time of year for the arts, so choir concerts, band concerts, mariachi concerts, theater productions, all of them were fabulous. I'm very proud of our program here. I also got to go over to the high school for the week of code and watch some very intelligent young men show me their robot competition. I think they were going to have a competition on Saturday, and it's very impressive the work that we're doing over there. And I'm going to turn it over to Ms. Duncan.
Thank you. I wanted to thank those of you and everyone in the Seguin ISD who came out to the KWED Holiday Food and Toy Drive. We had a great time. Performances by Seguin High School Mariachi and the Matador Band, and I believe some football players. volleyball players and various sundry other people came and helped, so thank you for that. Also was able to enjoy some performances by Potlawn Elementary, Rodriguez Elementary, and Weinert Elementary at the North Pole Stroll in Central Park. And on December 10th, we're going to make this a tradition. Members of the Seguin High School Choir came to the radio station and performed live on the air, and that was quite a treat as well. Also attended an hour of code at Kinnicky, attended the farewell to Dot Whitman here at Central Office, and just today, hot off the press, just came from Barnes Middle School for a check-in.
Ms. Crittenden?
I attended the Weinert Winter Showcase, campus check-in at Weinert, and I got to see the fabulous sixth graders at AJB for the hour of code.
Mr. Amador?
I attended the Barnes AJB computer check-in and found those guys really work, and enjoyed seeing them. Attended also the Guadalupe County Appraisal District, and we had a big discussion. Hopefully there will be some news soon. And attended a bond oversight meeting. And I went to Barnes and saw the robotics class and all the kids with robots now. One of these days, all of us are going to be replaced by robots. It'll be easy to vote for. And also attended the winter choir concert, and I truly was amazed. I mean, those kids can really carry a voice. I did not participate. I can't carry anything.
Thank you. Mr. Jenkins?
The month of November has been pretty busy for me, not with school activities, so I haven't done much with school this month, so nothing to report.
Well, I know we're in your heart, though, every day. Okay. Ms. Moreno?
Well, the Barnes 7th grade basketball team seems to be a part of my weekly visits, and that be in 7th grade. On December 2nd, I attended the National Junior Honor Society induction ceremony for both middle schools. On the 5th, it was my pleasure to sit in on the AJB Data Dialogue. On December 11th, I was at Barnes Middle School for their mariachi concert. And I also came to Dot Whitman's Come and Go. Then on the 13th, I was also an attendee, an audience member for the Seguin High School Mariachi concert that evening. If you had not had an opportunity to see those groups in action, make it a point whenever you know that they're performing. They are an awesome group. And then on Sunday, I was also at the Mid-Texas Symphony concert where over close to 100 children participated and sang with the Mid-Texas Symphony. It was really very nice. And to Friday night, I have the opportunity, and I'm so looking forward to watch our two Christmas bells perform at the Texas Theater.
Oh, those kind of bells.
Yes.
Opening night is Thursday. Mr. Guerra?
On December the 2nd, I attended the SISD rezoning meeting. December the 5th, I attended the data dialogue at AJB. A lot of good information was presented there. 12/13, I attended the Potlawn Elementary Student Council dance. The kids were having a real good time during that dance. And after that, I came over to the SISD mariachi program. And once again, those mariachi programs they're growing and they're headed in the right direction. That's all.
Very impressive. Thank you. All right, moving on in our agenda to our campus recognition presentation. Ms. Duncan?
Well, it's my pleasure to introduce tonight's featured campus, Barnes Middle School. Nikki Bidding serves as principal at Barnes, and tonight she will tell us about her campus culture and share what it means to be a member of the Barnes family. Nikki Bidding.
Good evening, President Thomas Jimenez, Dr. Udettis, and our entire wonderful board. I am honored and privileged to stand before you. I've brought some folks with me who can say a whole lot more, because I know you love to hear from students, but I'd like to introduce you to Mr. Luis Sosa, one of our assistant principals, and I have two amazing young folks that I want to introduce to you.
Hello, my name is Isabella Guerra, and I'm in 8th grade. I'm 14 years old. I'm a part of our mariachi program, our band program, and I just got inducted into our National Junior Honor Society program. Our school, I like our school's academics. I like how we have not college classes, but high school classes that will give us credits for high school, like Spanish and algebra.
My name's Christian Brooks. I'm a 13-year-old 8th grader at Jim Martin Middle School. I'm a part of athletics as well as algebra and theater. I take all pre-AP classes, and the one reason I like my class is because of the staff and my excellent teachers.
So with listening to both of these amazing students, our journalism class put a video together to kind of show you exactly what it means to be a part of the Barnes family. So we'll let the video.
Hi, I'm Harley. I go to Barnes. I'm an 8th grader. I've been in cheer and volleyball for 2 years. I've had a really good experience here, and you should join a team or a club.
I'm an 8th grader at Jim Barnes Middle School, and I recommend our school because our athletic program is growing and our school is becoming a family.
What does it mean to be a turtle? You gotta have self-discipline, be above the line, keep your grades up, listen to your teachers, and environment and a great staff.
School pride means to wear your school colors and support your school no matter what. Barnes Tournament means that everyone is there to support each other and we're all going to take part.
So from the first day, starting with our staff and the students, we let everyone know that we are a Barnes family, and we believe that it starts with us. That starts with us in the classroom, that starts with us on the field, that starts with us on the band. Every single thing that encompasses Jim Barnes Middle School, that is part of the Barnes family. We believe in cultivating, inspiring, and empowering. Thank you.
Thank you all so much, and to the students, thank you all for sharing and coming and sharing with the board. We are really proud of the efforts being made at Barnes by not only the staff, but the students as well. It has undergone a complete transformation in such a fast amount of time, and so I just want to attribute that change to the students and staff of Barnes. I'm very proud. Thank you all.
Yes. All right, moving on to item 2B, which is student, staff, board, and community recognition. I believe I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Sean Hoffman.
Greetings, season's greetings, President Thomas Jimenez, board members, and Dr. Gutierrez. Tonight it is a pleasure to introduce a group of students who recently, the Seguin High School theater students, traveled to the Thespian Convention in Dallas. The students were immersed in a world of theater, as well as competing in many different categories and attending a slew of workshops while they were there. They also performed, and as a result, 3 of these students qualified to compete in an International Thespian Festival to be held in Indiana in June. And I know what all of you are thinking. Indiana is synonymous with theater, isn't it? The 3 qualifiers for internationals are, and we will bring them up for a photo with Dr. Gutierrez, Jasmine Blair. Come on, Jasmine. Incidentally, Jasmine's brother, we recognized him. He's behind us today. John, he's at LSU now. We recognized him last year because he went to this festival last year. Alana Darrow and Faith Sihan. Of course, Lydia Robles serves as Seguin High School theater director. Dr. Hector Esquivel is our Seguin High School principal, and Jason Adams serves as our Seguin ISD Fine Arts coordinator. And when y'all come back, are y'all seniors?
Yes.
No, okay, yes, well, come back in June after you go to internationals with your medals and we'll do this again.
Yes, sir.
All right, on 3. 1, 2, 3. 3 and 3. Great. Thank you. Next, we've recognized him once, and this is probably not the last time we'll recognize is Pete Silvius, our Seguin ISD Director of Whole Child Initiatives. He's recently the recipient of the Recreation Professional of the Year Award from the Texas Association of Health, Physical Education, Recreation, and Dance. Pete is the mastermind behind the plethora of outdoor and recreational activities afforded to Seguin ISD students, including overnight trips to HEB Camp in Lakey for all 5th grade students in the district, summer day camps that include mountain biking, kayaking, hiking, and skateboarding, plus an epic annual summer camp to West Texas that includes camping, hiking, swimming, and a whole bunch of fun. Pete, along with Dr. Gutierrez, has implemented and administered the LINK program here in Seguin ISD, which is now in 5 elementary schools. Pete did get an award, so we're asking him to come forward with his award so we can get a quick photo.
Randy thought it was national, so he said it's probably not worth a picture, but.
It's my turn now. Superintendent's Award. Tonight it is a special privilege to recognize an individual who has made a tremendous impact on Seguin ISD. This month's honoree is a 22-year Seguin ISD employee, and during her tenure with the district she has served as an attendance clerk at Seguin High School, plus a data controller and HR receptionist and records clerk. She is extremely loyal, extremely courteous, helpful, cheerful, and always delivers service with a smile, no matter the situation. She truly wants to help anyone who comes into the Human Resources Department and truly has a matador spirit. She is extremely knowledgeable and faithfully served as Doc Whitman's right hand for many years. Now she is helping Cindy Moreno transition into her new role. For these reasons, I am honored to present this month's Superintendent Award to Ellie Cisneros, HR Certification and Staffing Specialist.
Ellie's been smiling the whole time?
Congratulations, Ellie, and she does have a smile when she was just 12. Everybody should have a smile, it's beautiful. Okay, moving on in our agenda, next up is audience with the board. We did not have anyone sign up this evening, so I'm moving on to number 4, which is our closed session. We will be adjourning into closed session this morning, afternoon, evening, sorry. It's been a very weird day for me. We'll start over. We're going to adjourn into closed session pursuant to the following sections of the Texas Opens Meeting Act. Sections 551.071, 551.074, and 551.129, which is consultation with legal counsel to address legal concerns, implications, and answer any legal questions regarding posted agenda items. And also pursuant to Texas Government Code Section 551.074, to discuss personnel matters, including appointment, employment, evaluation, reassignment duties, discipline, or dismissal of an employee. It is 6:55, and we will go into closed session right now. Thank you. right, it is 7:27. We're going to reconvene to open meeting, and there will be no action from our closed session. So we're going to move on to item 6A, which is campus instructional initiatives. And we're going to have Mr. Jason Schmidt, Dr. Gahalba, and Ms. Nikki Biddings back up here this evening. Talk a little bit about Barnes and Breezy.
Board President Thomas Jimenez, esteemed board members, Dr. Gutierrez. A couple of months ago, back in October, we started a new tradition here in Seguin ISD where we would have campus leaders and campus teams talk about initiatives that are happening this year related to some of our instructional priorities. Those being either the rigor and relevance, push for rigor and relevance for ICLE, PLCs, or the guaranteed and viable curriculum. Tonight we have two of our middle schools here, and I'm going to start it off by bringing up Dr. Ben Grijalva, and he's going to bring his team up from AJB.
Good evening, board members, President Thomas Jimenez, Dr. Gutierrez. Thank you for having us this evening to talk about AJB instructional focus. Along with me, these two lovely ladies, Ms. Newman and Ms. Dan, who will be helping me with facilitating this presentation. So what we've done in AJB is have had an opportunity to continue the PLC process, right? The PLC culture that we're trying to build at AJB. And the main focus is to really focus on getting our students to progress. The PLC culture that we're building at AJB comes with, it's multi-layered. So one is, as you can see in this artifact, is that we have our teams from 6th, 7th, and 8th math teams coming together with our special ed team as well in addressing the needs of our students. The focus is on planning and collaborating, and I think that's the important part of the PLC process. It is all focused in making sure that what we're doing is addressing the needs of our students. We have the 5 stages of the PLC. And again, this, if you notice, this is on the back of or in front of the room, I guess, where they're working on. It is also a reminder that this is the 5 stages that we have to go through so that we continue to emphasize that rigor, right, that we're trying to develop in our classes. There we go. The PLC culture is wrapped around that rigor and relevance framework. And if you notice on this depiction, that quadrant B is really the goal that we're trying to drive our lessons and our learning, student learning. And so that is where we have more of our evaluating and analysis and our creativity that we want to make sure we foster in our classes. And I think that's where we want to do that, and it really doesn't represent the grade in any way. So D is really where we want to put our students in engaging, okay? On this 2 pictures, we have Mr. Molina and Ms. Nance, who have gone already through the CIR process. And if you notice, Mr. Molina is really engaging with the students. But Ms. Nance is standing right next to that board, and she's really doing the observation along with an administrator in that classroom. And so that's now one of the things that's changed in our CR process. And then the other picture is really demonstrating and illustrating for our students and really modeling the purpose of collaborating and addressing and tackling problems in a collective approach. Just a quick reminder, I know we've said this before, but the collaborative instructional review, the CIR process, has 4 different components. The first is the pre-conference, where teachers kind of tell us what they want to grow, what they want to focus on, what they want to reach, right, for their lesson. And the next one is really the observation, is what we were just talking about with Mr. Molina and Ms. Nance doing the observation along with the administrator. And then the collaboration and the debrief with the CIR team is really the I guess, the icing on the cake. What it does, it really gives us an opportunity to have a discussion about what we saw, what we observed, but we don't focus on the individual. We focus on what the kids are doing. And I think that's the key here, right? It's not about the teacher, it's about what the kids are doing that we focus on. And the last stage is really that dialogue that we want to create with our teachers and our colleagues in addressing what is there I need to grow on, right? It's a very reflective piece in our process. And so we want to make sure that we're asking the right questions so that that teacher can really be analytical in their practice as we go along, okay? It is not a way to evaluate, but more of a growth mindset approach in our professional development. In the ICLE, we have 3 different rubrics. This rubric really helps our teachers kind of look at their planning. And what we always shoot for is that development stage is a third or second to the last from our right. Is that development stage where we want our teachers to be planning for that area. If we are hitting that area, it means that our students are getting a good lesson, right? And that has become our goal, is to get to that point, right? Now, this year, however, we had a teacher who was very insightful in saying, you know, this really helps me, but it's a lot of stuff to process, right? It's a big rubric. So one of the things that our teachers did is they did a bookmark. And so what they did is they put questions that would help them during their planning. And so this is coming from them. It's not really coming from the administrators, but it's really a creativity on the teacher's perspective. And so I thought it was really meaningful that they utilize this. It's shorter, but it's questions that they need to be asking when they're planning. Okay. And the CIR process, like I said, it's really the observation is the dialogue that happens after, right? The observation. So far this year, we've done 12 team CIR visits, and this is, if you notice that Mr. Molina and Ms. Nance are there, but also Ms. Tam is there. We wish Ms. Newman would be there, but there's also a special representative in there. And I think that's the difference. And those are the things that we need to push the limit, right? Because technically speaking, you will only see the teacher and the administrator. But we want to make sure that everybody's getting involved, okay? And here tonight, I'd like for Ms. Stan and Ms. Newman to give us a little bit of a testimonial on their own experience.
Hi, I'm Ms. Stam. I had the opportunity last year to participate in CIR, and it was a lot different last year compared to this year. Last year it was very much myself and an administrator, and it was very self-reflective, and I enjoyed the process. I was able to reflect upon my lessons and my planning and kind of plan for those developed lessons in that student engagement. The difference this year, however, has been that it's very much more collaborative. I've been able to work with my team partner and my other grade levels. I had not had the opportunity to really get in to see other teachers teaching because I was so busy teaching all at the same time. And so it's been really great to kind of dive in and reflect, as well as have that other person to bounce ideas off. And as a department lead, the CIR process has helped us using those rigor relevance, using those rubrics. It's helped me as a team lead to guide our conversations in PLC. I didn't really know how to start that. And using those rubrics, we pick a point, we kind of start it, and it just helps us dive into that planning, and we can bounce our lessons. And we've learned that it's not huge changes, it's just minor tweaks. We're not having to recreate the wheel, but we can tweak our lessons to make them that much better for our students.
Hi, I'm Lindsay Newman. So with the CIR, I've noticed that, kind of like going off of what Lacey was saying, that I've caught myself going into her classroom on my conference period just to see how my teaching is compared to hers, and seeing how like my kids may react the same or react different, and making sure that we're both on the same caliber. And then after going through that, we can, like she said, bounce ideas off of each other. So we're making sure that we're dotting all our I's and crossing all our T's, and that our students are engaged and they're understanding what we're going over and all the processes that we do cover.
Some of the next steps, we're going to continue, of course, with our CIR observations in the next semester. And we're very excited because we want to continue having that team approach. But I also wanted to add just the last piece is what we've also done is based on observations that we've done at AJB from our leadership team here at the district level is we've developed our what we call AJB key teacher moves. And these are our 9, we identified 9 key teacher moves. And these, again, is responsive to the feedback of the conditions that we have here at AJB. And then it's very simple. They just reinforce their instruction and class management, okay? And so the idea is to really have all teachers at AJB master these moves, okay? And they're not very difficult to address, and you can see them all during a lesson. And so these key teacher moves are really the focus that we're trying to do. And as administrators, we give feedback based on this. So all our focus is in making sure that we're chunking it, right? Little by little. We don't want to create more things.
How long have you had this in place? Because I know that may be what some of us are wondering up here.
We've had this already since November, and we've already seen a significant difference. Dr. Gutierrez, just in the observations that I've seen, where we've also utilized it as an approach of promoting this, but also it's a game where we have our teachers, they have that posted in their classroom, and when we see something in those key teacher moves, we put a sticker, and we've already had teachers black out on those, and they're working on their second one, and they receive an incentive, a prize. But the teachers are engaged on it, and they appreciate that it's focused, right? And so, long answer, Dr. Gutierrez, but it's been implemented since November. Any questions?
Yeah, what is chunking? I just don't understand.
Chunking really what it is we know that our lessons or our periods are over 50 minutes, right? So what we want to do is we want to make sure that we are chunking the lesson into much smaller pieces. And then breaking it up. And then we are checking for understanding as we're processing this information, right? It's kind of like saying, I stop at this presentation every 10 minutes and then I go and check how everybody's doing, right? And what evidence am I looking at so that it is effective, okay? Our teachers know what the vernacular is, right, the vocabulary, but these are very, like the power zone is being not here presenting, but rather here with the students, so that I'm checking for understanding, right? So those are things that can be easily implemented in the lesson. Any other questions for me or
I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
When you do the observation, you do the pre-conference with the teacher and then the 20-minute observation. Who's on the debrief? The administrator and the teacher and who else?
It could be the other team member.
Okay.
So it's traditionally it is only the administrator and the teacher, right, having that conversation. What we felt that it was necessary, that it was very fruitful, and actually even the teachers were more wanting to do this, is, well, can we be in that other part, before we're being observed, can we be the observers? So they can kind of see what's happening, right, and have that conversation without feeling like they're the ones on the hot seat, I guess. Right?
So the observation is done by the administrator and the team member or the other teacher?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
I would think too, in consequent years, once you have this under your belt, so to speak, that maybe it will become easier for planning year after year, and you can just build on what you've already done. Do you find that that's going to be helpful moving forward?
Yes, ultimately the idea is to really have a culture where we feel that it is not really, like I said, it's an evaluation, but more of a growth, right? And the idea is behind that I will grow with feedback from multiple people, not just from my administrator, right? Yes, and ultimately, that will impact the lesson planning that's happening. And what we want to see is, we can plan forever and how well it looks in a paper. It's the execution of the lesson and the methods that are used in delivering that lesson that I think is more impactful, and that's what the CIR process really helps us do that.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions? Thank you, appreciate it.
Thank you. This time, let's have Miss Nikki Biddings and her team come to the front.
Good evening again. I am back up with Mr. Sosa. And we will just be discussing with you the process that we have at Jim Barnes Middle School. So as we mentioned before, that we know it all starts with us. And this particular process starts with our teachers. We have a common plan, we have a common period for dedicated meeting time. And what that means is all of our English teachers have the exact same PLC period, 6th, 7th, and 8th grade. During this time, they're together, they meet 4 times out of the week. We have set agendas, and we discuss everything from student level, student expectations, all what's going on. And then we have vertical conversations, and what does that mean? What does that look like? You've got the 8th grade teachers discussing with the 7th grade teachers, particularly in math. What is the concept here that they may or may have not met? And you have the 6th graders, the 6th grade teachers, and the 7th grade teachers, all discussing all together in one room. And to my knowledge, that has not occurred before at this level. So that is something that we were afforded from the district to be able to put that into place.
One of the other benefits of the PLC program is also that we get to look at the after effects of the lessons. So once we give our assessments, we can come back and say, okay, so what did our students miss? And where can we go, where are opportunities for us to go ahead and extend on this part, where students really just kind of blew it out of the park. So our PLC is part of those vertical conversations. We have opportunities to look at those enrichment and our reteach conversations. So looking at, okay, so my 6th graders, my first period didn't do so well, but your class did phenomenal at that. What did you do? What can I change? Can you help me come up with a lesson together? So again, really kind of putting that thing that we have, that culture that we're building of the Barnes family into how we plan our instruction and really look at our student growth. And finally, the instructional growth, again, we can sit back and we can have those conversations. Data is not hidden from anyone. So our teachers, our 6th grade teachers, share their results and share their students' progress with their 7th grade counterparts, with their 8th grade counterparts. We don't hide any of that. We go ahead and we celebrate the growth that occurs, and we go ahead and we look at, okay, so we didn't have as much growth as we expected. How are we going to fix that on that? We make those adjustments as a team.
So in our collaborative instructional review, the CIR is what you've heard, and I know you all are aware of it in our rigor and relevance, the content grade levels. What we have done differently this year is, I'm using an example for the 8th grade. If we're in the 8th grade social studies team, we've taken both of those partners, both 8th grade teachers, and we have done the entire process with the both of them at 2 different times. So the pre-conference, there's the both 8th grade team members are there, there's administration, we have central office representation from the learning and leadership, and we do the exact process together as a team. We use the ICLE rigor and relevance framework. We dive into it, and you're going to hear a little while from one of our participants the benefit that she has received in that. That has been very powerful for someone who's been in the process for the 2nd year, coming from the high school to the middle school. These folks, the conversations the folks are having and the ahas, like the example of this team here. I have an 8th grade teacher who's 5 years in, and then I have a 1st year teacher. To be able to go in and see what's going on in someone else's class for the same subject, we're planning together. I'm able to go see something here, catch something here that I didn't catch. Very, very powerful. Talk about self-reflection. From there, after we have all of that discussion, we come back in with the fishbowl and we debrief together and discuss exactly what it is we saw. He mentioned the data. The data is there as well. Like I mentioned, you'll get to see from one of our teachers the powerfulness of that, how that has impacted our team. And that is something that we are extremely excited about. And it gets us just very excited to be able to go and see what my neighbor's doing, when I don't believe that was able to occur before.
And finally, that CIR rubric allows us to, the process allows us to look at tiered instruction. So some of our students sit at different levels. Some need more scaffolding, some need more of a challenge. And so when we look at where each of those students are, we can come back and we can say with confidence that, yes, we are looking at student work, we are looking at the academic conversations, we are looking at the meaningful work on there, but we're also tailoring it to their students' needs. So if we have a group of students with our, say for our language learners, and we really want to promote their speaking and their listening growth, then we go ahead and we look at, okay, so how can we tier in conversations into this? How can we grow what academic conversations look like? For our ELA classes, how are we going to allow students to interact with the text? Because they can just read a book, but to read a book and really kind of have that movie that plays in your head, that takes something. Not everyone can do that. So how do we scaffold the student towards that? And the tiered instruction allows us to do that. Take students from where they are, move them to where we want them to be, where we know that they can be.
So, and this, she was not able to be here tonight, but she did a video for us. This is our first year teacher, social studies, and I'm going to let her speak for herself. This is Miss Christina Smith.
So when I think about what is the benefit of the team CIR versus doing an individual CR, I found there to be a lot of beneficial reasons. The first one was that I felt like it really encouraged us to have deeper conversations about the content and the lesson itself. So we could really determine what was the objective and what we really expected our students to be able to demonstrate by the end of the lesson. One piece that I really enjoyed about doing the team CIR was that it gave us an opportunity to watch our team member teach the same lesson. So I was able to go into my team member's room and watch him teach the same content and the same activity. However, every teacher's different, and I feel like I was able to sort of pick up on some of the strategies of the way that he was explaining it and apply it to my future instruction. I also believe that the lesson itself was improved through the discussion. We sort of came into this process with a lesson in mind that we had already kind of created, but we were able to use those rubrics and really apply that rigor and relevance to increase the lesson. And we were able to use our collaborative process and all of those rubrics to really, I feel like, increase the effectiveness of the lesson for our students. When I think about the greatest benefit that I've experienced with the CIR process, I really feel like one of the biggest benefits absolutely was the collaboration it created. And I really enjoyed having those rubrics. Using the rubrics while we collaborated, I really feel like it elevated our lesson in a way that would be more meaningful for students. And it really kind of allowed us to figure out new ways to challenge them, to use real life applications through rigor and relevance. And I feel like that was really important to add to our lesson. And it really kind of helped us determine where our students were at, and we were able to kind of base our lesson off of that. So overall, I feel like having the collaboration really helped not only us, but it helped our students as well to get the most out of the lesson that they possibly could.
So that is from Ms. Smith, who is doing a phenomenal job and pretty much summed up everything about our process. This is who we are. It starts with the Barnes family, and it starts with us. And to be able to see our folks go through this, it's amazing. We said this last year. I was fortunate enough to be with Dr. Gutierrez this summer, when we got to present in Washington. It really is a great process, and we are very proud of the work that we are doing there in Barnes. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, moving on to item 6B, which is the Proclamations 2020 Steering Committee and Adoption Guidelines. And this is Mr. Jacob Smith and Ms. Alice Nolan.
Board President Thomas Jimenez, members of the board, Dr. Gutierrez. I'd like to take this opportunity to bring up Dr. Allison Williams. And Dr. Williman is going to present on Proclamation 2020 and where we are with that process.
All right, so last year you guys got to hear about Proclamation 2019, so here we are again. Good evening, Board President Thomas Jimenez, the school board, and Dr. Gutierrez. My name is Dr. Allison Williman, and I'm the secondary ELAR coordinator and facilitating the Proclamation 2020 process. The State Board of Education creates an adoption cycle for core contents to ensure instructional materials are reviewed once every 8 years. The process begins when the State Board of Education revises or adopts new Texas Essential Knowledge and Skills, or TEKS. Proclamation 2020 was issued in April of 2018, amended in November of 2018, and aligns with the new TEKS for English Language Arts and Reading for grades 9 through 12, which go into effect next school year, 2020-2021. This adoption also includes materials for English as a second language classes, also known as ESOL, ELA, and LDEP. Of the call for new instructional materials, the following courses are currently offered at Seguin High School: English 1, 2, 3, and 4, Debate 1, 2, and 3, Advanced Broadcast Journalism 1, 2, and 3, Advanced Journalism Yearbook 1, 2, and 3, Advanced Journalism Newspaper 1, 2, and 3. Additionally, new instructional materials are called for the following ESOL classes: English Learners Language Arts for grades 7 and 8, English 1 for speakers of other languages, ESOL 1, English 2 for speakers of other languages, ESOL 2, and English Language Development and Acquisition, but no materials were submitted to TEA for consideration. To make the selection this year, 2 different committees have been formed: the Steering Committee and the Teacher Committee. The Steering Committee is comprised of central office staff who oversee the areas under adoption. Members of the Instructional Materials Teacher Committee are teachers who are nominated by their campus principals, academic deans, and department leads. Teachers who serve on the committee are experienced master's teachers in English Language Arts and Reading. In addition, the committee also has teachers who hold certifications in ESL and special education. Members of the Instructional Materials Teacher Committee are responsible for submitting in writing final adoption recommendations. I will assist members of the Instructional Materials Teacher Committee with all related adoption tasks and responsibilities. We will meet in January for orientation, and then in February to review the district instructional materials evaluation rubric. Also in February, we will host a publisher showcase for teacher committee members as well as other stakeholders to preview the materials. The teachers will evaluate the materials and reach an agreement to the recommended materials. During this time, we will also study the Texas Resource Review Report, a report that will be released by TEA evaluating the quality of the instructional materials, not just TEKS and ELPS alignment. The report has been gathered by educators across the state. I currently serve as a lead on one committee and can confirm the validity of the reports. In March, the steering committee will review the recommendation and present the recommendation to DEIC, and in April, I will return and present the recommendations to you, the school board.
Questions? So we'll see you again in April?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, moving on to item 6C, which is a Matador Special Services overview from Ms. Steen. Good evening.
Madam President, Dr. Gutierrez, Board, I appreciate the time to address you and discuss the Matador Special Services Department and what we were doing in the spring, the fall. My presentation is brief because we had a briefing earlier in the year to discuss behaviors, and I wanted to give you an update on where we are with that and what's been going on since. So we developed the PLUS program, which is a behavior inclusive program that we've implemented on several of our elementary campuses and all of our secondary campuses. We're getting intensive support from Region 20. They're coming out once a month to 6 weeks to review programs, talk with teachers, instructional coaching, things like that, and it's going well. It's going well on our campuses. We we're able to, with the addition of some additional staff members, work through some of the concerns we have, and I think that the program is moving along nicely at this point. So we appreciate the support provided by the board for additional support. We also have self-contained behavior classes on several of our campuses, and then we developed the off-campus alternative program to be housed here in this building. We're currently serving 4 students right now. We had some significant difficulties adjusting to the program over here, but the students are doing very well now. They're really adjusting into schedules, doing much better with behaviors, and making some good gains. So our goal always in that program is to return the students to a campus, to the home campus, to remediate the behaviors and get the student back to functioning on a campus. So I think we're on target to do that. We're very proud of the work that teachers and students have done in here. So that was a very good move, and we appreciate the support to open that program. The PLUS program is called Positive Learning, Understanding, and Support. It's an inclusive behavior support with moderate behavioral issues on the campuses. The programs at Vogel, Kennedy, Potlawn, AJB Barnes, and the high school. And again, like I said, the ongoing support from Region 20 has been very helpful. We have a self-contained behavioral unit at elementary that we developed this year based on student need. A self-contained placement for elementary students with more severe behavioral programs. The inclusion program wasn't working as we had hoped. So again, the students are in the self-contained setting until the behaviors improve. The goal is to get them out to the regular classes. And then off-campus, alternative program as we discussed. So other programs and projects that we've been working on concurrently are, we've added several reading teachers to all the elementary schools to provide more support to students in the area of reading. Targeted intervention for our most struggling readers, and that's going well. We added a Seguin High School campus special ed coordinator to kind of focus on that the campus is larger, has more needs, and that's been a great assistance. And we're working with AJB and Barnes to redesign special ed programs and supports for the 2021 school year. It's time to start thinking about staffing for next year and how we want programs to look. We're working with Region 20 on some redesign projects as well. The Whole Child Learning Center at Ball Elementary has gone very well. We will submit on Thursday the application for another 2-year cycle of a $2 million grant, and we think we're well in the running for that grant. We've got a great proposal on the table, and the staff at Ball has done great work with our previous grant, so we're very proud of that. Upcoming student needs are increasing, as we discussed earlier in the fall. We need to add additional assessment staff, art facilitators, and counselors to provide support services so teachers can teach. And then, as I mentioned, the autism grant we're applying. We're continuing to refine our programs and train staff on the provision of special ed services. We're applying to be a promising practices research site with Region 20 for innovative special ed services and supports. And we're going to be conducting staffing surveys in the spring to ensure that we're staffed appropriately. But the work continues. We keep moving forward. But we met our behavior challenges, I think, that presented earlier in the year, and we feel good about where we're going. So, that's it. Like I said, brief.
Any questions? Ms. Maya?
The students that are in MBLC.
Yes.
4 students, what grade levels? Is it a variety or is it?
It's a variety. The youngest is a 5th grader. He's 11. And then the oldest is a high school student.
What's the staff, the student is here?
We've got one teacher and a paraprofessional, and then another teacher that comes as needed, and then our behavior specialist who's housed in our office is here all the time, and I frequently support there as well. So.
And the vocal unit, how many students are in that?
The vocal unit, I believe in the self-contained section, we have 5 students? 4 now. We have 1 transfer. 4 in self-contained, and we've got a teacher and a para in there as staff.
The program here where MBLC used to be,
Yes.
What's a typical day look like for them?
The day is structured, we try to mimic as much as we can a classroom environment. So they have individualized schedules where we try to break the work into chunks where you do a set amount of work based on a behavior contract. Some students it's 20 minutes, 30 minutes, whatever they can handle, and then you get a reward or brain break time that you can self-select. So we try to build in the supports as the students need, but you work a little, you get something good, you work a little more, you get something good. They have lunch, communal lunch, things like that. So, and they have reward times built in. If the class does well, then we have a game center for rewards at the end of the day. But the dynamic has improved, so the mix of kids has really worked out, where they're bonding and socializing with each other and really making good games.
Have you had any come in and then go back to a campus yet?
Not yet.
Okay.
Not yet.
What's the estimated time frame on those students going back to the other campus?
It totally depends on the needs and the level of behavior. Right now, we're kind of targeting some specific behavioral goals that were pretty challenging. So we're anticipating a little more time that we need here to make sure that we've got these behaviors cemented.
Does that make for a challenging IEP?
It can. A lot of times, what we found is the parents have come to us saying, we appreciate this support, because the students are, it helps alleviate some anxiety that they're feeling going to the campuses. We actually have 2 of our students, I think, are a lot more comfortable in the smaller setting, and the anxiety is lessened for them. So we're actually getting more work in getting some better results from students. And that's where it gets tricky to think about returning to the campus, because the returning to the stress and the full load of students in classes gets challenging. So you kind of have to balance. And what we'll do when we're ready to transition is we'll start slowly, visiting the campus, and kind of an intervention plan to where we don't just throw the student out to the regular campus. We kind of build it up.
Mr. Guetta?
Yes, could you elaborate a little bit more on that third bullet, the second sentence about research site? Is this the first time they're doing this? Or?
Yes, this is the first time. This came about, I was in a conversation with the Region 20 staff about some ideas for redesigning special education. Special education across the state, inclusion programs are really struggling. There's a lot of challenges with getting the students where they need to be, and we were talking about some ideas, and I have thought for several years, I had an idea of how we could do things better, and the specialist at Region 20 said to me, Judson has just ended a 3-year research project with us. We're looking for another project. Would you like to be our project? I said, yes, I would very much like to be your project. It involves providing targeted supports to students based on their disability and need, and an instructional facilitation model is what we're calling that. So if we're writing a proposal, we're co-writing this grant proposal with Region 20 to apply to TEA. So we would get all the services and supports that were selected for Region 20 for free, for program development, ongoing program monitoring, and then we would be a research site. This would be a project where we collect data and have a research site, and then we'd be a promising practices site where other districts would visit us if we achieve our goals, which I know we would. But it's very exciting, and they were very excited because they were thinking very much along the same lines as I was in the instructional facilitation model, providing targeted supports. So it was a good coming together of the minds, so we're very excited. We should submit that in February and then know by the spring whether we've obtained both of these grants, the autism grant and the research project grant. So hopefully there'll be more to come on that in the spring.
Looking forward to hearing the results of that.
I know, we're excited. We're very excited. We're moving forward.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate it. All right, next up is item 6D, which is a report on rigor, relevance, engagement, and professional learning communities. This is part of our strategic plan. Mr. Cantu, greetings.
Good evening, members of the board, President Thomas Jimenez and Dr. Gutierrez. So you all heard a lot about rigor, relevance, and PLCs already. It worked out perfectly. It was not planned, but it's going to show the systemic changes that we're trying to implement across the district, and I think it speaks volumes that both campuses we're sharing the same information. So as you all know, we have 3 strategic priorities. One is to improve student learning through improved instructional practices. The other is to engage parents and community members, and then to create the conditions to recruit and retain the best at Seguin ISD. And so with that, we spent the time with XG to design 4 goals that we really want to measure. One of them is to increase literacy proficiency. So last month, I shared some data with you from iStation. Actually the month before, I believe. Number 2, which is what we're going to focus on today, implementing PLCs district-wide. Number 3, utilize the rigor and relevance framework, and then to develop a guaranteed and viable curriculum. So throughout the year, we will continue to share these reports. Today, like I said, we will focus on PLCs, which is the report for the month of December, and then we'll bring back this report in April as well to show our work then. The same thing for the rigor relevance. Next month in January, as you can see, we will share where we are in developing a guaranteed and viable curriculum so that every single student has access to the best curriculum possible. So as we focus on the frameworks, I'm not going to share too much because you heard both AJB and Barnes talk about that. But the idea is that we get to well-developed, right? And we heard the teacher, this is about really high caliber teaching is what she said, right? So getting to that well-developed is where we want to be. Unfortunately though, in many of our classes, we're still at the emerging, which is the 2nd rating, but we want to get to the developed and well-developed. And so that is our plan, and that is why we use the CIR process to move this work quickly. This is a relevance rubric. I'm not going to go into details because it was shared with you, but the relevance rubric is about how do we create meaningful work, right? So when the student says, when am I going to use math in class? Well, this forces us to think about how is this relevant? When is it relevant? How is it authentic, right? So we just don't do things to do things. It's not just the worksheet, but how do we create a meaningful project or application? And then how do we connect the learning, not just to math or to science, but interdisciplinary? So that's what this rubric helps us do. And then the learning engagement rubric. We can't have learning if students aren't engaged. And so this rubric helps us get there as well. And so the way we introduced the framework, so we started last year with the secondary campuses, the high school and both middle schools, worked through this CIR process. You've heard there's several steps to it. And what this does is that it helps to transform every educator, whether it's the administrator, into a powerful instructional leader, or if it's a teacher, into making sure that every student has reached their maximum potential. And so that process is the process that we're driving to make sure that every teacher is planning with these frameworks. And so what I want to share with you today that hasn't been shared with you is, so how are we doing that? What does it look like? How are we working with the consultants? And just some of the data around that. So as you can see, we have our elementary campuses listed here. The first column is the campus. The second column is the number of teachers. So we've purposely selected teachers from each campus who's going to go through this process. For example, Jefferson, the last time that our consultant, Ms. Denise White, was here, she went through this process with the administrator and the teachers. So they've done that with 6 teachers. And after that, Jefferson Elementary has continued that process 7 times. Same thing for Kennedy. Kennedy, you'll notice that it says 0. We haven't visited that campus officially with the consultant, but they still are doing some homework visits without the consultant. So the work doesn't stop right when we don't have the consultant, is what this is saying. So when you go through that, through 2 rounds, we've had 24 visits with the consultant on the different campuses there, and we've had 52 what we call homework visits without her. So 82 conversations at the elementaries across the district. With our secondary CIR, you heard that we've evolved the process so it's not just one-to-one, right? So we learn it individually in a more safe environment, and then we add folks to this, and we learn as a team. And so AJB has selected 8 teachers to do this with. You heard that they're doing this with teams. They've done 12 visits with teams. Barnes has done this 6 times as a full team, 6th through 8th grade. And our high school has done this 24 times. So we've had multiple opportunities for teachers to engage in the CIR process, to really begin to use the rubrics. Some of the feedback, and you all heard it today from testimony from teachers and administrators, is that this truly creates opportunities for teachers to have higher evaluations using T-TEST. T-TEST is the model that the district has adopted. It's a state model, and that's how we evaluate teachers. And so because of the CIR process, what we're seeing is better T-TEST observations. So when we're evaluating teachers, we're seeing better teaching. Initially, we had some teachers who did say this does feel like another thing. But I think once teachers go through the process, they realize that it's really no different than what we've asked them to do. We're just asking them to focus using the rubric. And we heard evidence of that today. And we've seen teachers, like you all saw, create those guiding questions because it can be overwhelming when you have these 3 rubrics. You're looking at 9 different components. So it's great to see that teachers are becoming teacher leaders and creating products. We've also heard about just several aha moments, right? Where teachers, this was an elementary teacher, really using the rubric to focus on allowing students to do the work in class, right? So we saw some of the pictures where teachers were facilitating, right? Instead of doing this, they're standing next to the child is on the board, they're leading their own learning, that's what we want to see, and that's what's going to get us to that quadrant D or those high levels of rigor. And then of course with the support of Denise White, it's just that whole idea of providing clarity, right? To deepen learner engagement and to differentiate for every student to meet the needs of our students. So that is our CIR process. You asked us to measure rigor and relevance across our district, and what we're measuring right now is how we're introducing the process. We'll get a baseline at the end of this year. I said a lot of times when we walk into classrooms, we see it at the emerging level. We want to move to the developed and well-developed. That is the data we will share with you in April.
I do want to share, because you might look and say, well, they've only done 12 at that campus when they have 40 teachers, 50 teachers. This is a process that we want to make sure is done with fidelity and not just something where we're checking boxes and saying, oh, we got all the teachers in and out. You have to put a lot of thought and time. It's a time-intensive process because you've got to schedule that pre-conference where first you've got to take the time to review and look at the lesson, schedule that pre-conference, and then at another time you're going into the classroom, and then maybe at another time you're having that post-conference because it's not always back-to-back. So it is a time-intensive process with the goal of building the capacity of our administrators to be better coaches, but also at the same time building the capacity of our teachers as well. So if we can invest hard and heavy into that number of teachers, we have 12 teachers that have undergone this that otherwise wouldn't have, and then next year we add to that. And so as time goes on, more teachers have had the opportunity to go through this process.
And the whole idea is how do we make it sustainable, right? How do we make it so that teachers are leading their own learning? And we heard examples from Ms. Stam and Ms. Neiman today. And you make it sustainable when the teachers themselves are observing and coaching. And so right now at the secondary they can do that because this is their second year. At the elementary it's our first year. So I'm going to jump to some next steps and then we'll go into PLCs. So we will continue working with our consultant. She will be out here 2 more times working with the elementaries. We will continue to train teachers district-wide on how to use the rubrics. So when we come back in January, most of the elementaries will sit through a presentation of planning with the rubrics. That'll be their PD when they come back. We're going to continue with the homework process. So even though the consultant is not here every day, the work continues with the administrators. We want to increase that CIR process so that eventually we all move to teams because that's what we know will continue. And then of course we're already planning for the 2020-21 school year so that as we roll out year 3, we maximize our time and our money. Questions on CIR before I jump to PLC?
Those 6 teachers or however many, 24 from the high school, were those volunteer? Did they volunteer or were they hand selected?
It was a combination of both. They asked teachers who wants to go through this process, but also were diligent in choosing teachers who were in tested grade levels. So at the high school, our EOC, English 1, English 2, but they also asked for others so that the people or the teachers in the electives had an opportunity to do the same. And so each of the elementaries did the same thing. Some opened it first to their grade level leads, and some asked for volunteers, but most of them were selected because of their testing grade level. All right, so now we're going to jump into PLC. So another one of the things that we've been measuring, because we believe that growing teachers is how we get better results. And so I'm going to talk to you briefly about our PLC opportunities that we've had at Seguin. And so again, the PLC is not about sitting in a meeting, listening to an administrator. It is about teachers growing their capacity. It depends on the campus or the team. Sometimes it is administrator heavy, whether it's a principal, an AP, an academic dean, or instructional coach. Sometimes it's a district support person. But the idea is that teachers lead this work. And we're training teachers up to be able to do this because, again, the sustainability comes when the teachers can do this themselves. You all saw this this model of 5 steps. It's being implemented across the district. Not exactly the same because every team maybe operates a little bit differently, but the idea is the same. We're unpacking TEKS, right? So what is it that I need to know so that I can teach students? We're creating lessons or tests during that time. We're modeling, whether it's from another teacher, whether it's from an administrator or central office support. We're providing professional development, and of course, there's always some sort of data analysis. I wanted to give you some data about the number of opportunities our teachers have had to engage with one another between the first week of school and now. And so across our elementaries, our teachers are meeting once a week at a minimum by grade level teams. So when you look at across all 7 elementaries, teachers have had 600 opportunities across the district to be able to collaborate, right? And so if we look at weekly per team, right, per content area at our 7 campuses, that's how we come up with these numbers. The middle school core teams meet daily, whether it's in a PLC room together. You heard Barnes, that for the first time in many years, they get to sit together in a vertical team, 6th, 7th, and 8th. Sometimes they don't always meet all together. Sometimes it's only 6th grade, sometimes it's only 7th, sometimes it's only 8th. But they've had 300 opportunities when you combine Barnes and AJB. What we haven't maximized is the time between Barnes and AJB. We purposely created the master schedule so that they are stacked on top of each other. So Barnes and AJB teams have the same period. So if they want to jump on the phone or jump on a video conference, the time allows that for that, but we haven't maximized that. At the high school, our EOC teams, so our testing teams, which is algebra, English 1 and 2, biology, and U.S. history, meet at least 3 times a week. And then our non-core area subjects meet 2 times a week for 30 minutes before school starts. And so the whole point of putting this slide together is to show that teachers have had opportunities to come together, to build each other up, to learn from one another, to plan, to look at data, and so we're meeting. PLC training and support, we're going to continue to follow the solution tree model. That is the model that many schools across the nation follow. It started with you all allowing us the opportunity to go to Ohio and Iowa, and I don't know where else we've traveled, but we're learning from the experts, right? There's been trainings here in San Antonio, and we continue to maximize those. Some of our campuses have more than 70% of their teachers already trained through those models, and we're going to continue to push that because we believe that the teams who have gone through the training have the strongest PLCs, and so that's what we want to make.
I also believe, and Ms. Murillo can correct me, that we have PLC folks coming for Professional Learning Day in February, and they're going to work with a couple of campuses. So that's an additional opportunity where we're going to have the experts come to Seguin ISD and work with a large group of teachers.
So we have February 17th as a day for a student holiday, but as a teacher work day. We're Teacher Professional Development Days, so 4 of our campuses are studying about 100 teachers here in this room and next room. We're bringing a PLC expert to lead those teams through the PLC process.
We'll invite y'all.
And of course, next steps, right? Because we wish, I wish I could come up here and say, we've met our goal and we're at 100% and every campus is doing amazing. That's why we have 8 campuses. But you all know that that is not the case. We're working towards that. And so again, we continue to refine the process because this is about teachers being encouraged to do the work together, administrators growing the work of teachers and their own professional capacity as leaders, simplifying access to data. You all have allowed us to hire a data analyst who has just really the last 2 weeks who has come over from the high school, pulled a lot of data that we're going to use tomorrow with our principals. We're providing coaching support. And then our main focus is secondary teachers need to be trained, so we're going to push that heavy in the summer and into the fall. And that's it.
Quick question.
Yes, ma'am.
When the consultant comes for those walkthroughs,
Yes.
will you let us know when they're gonna be here? I found that fascinating when I went to Jefferson. I'd like to see that on other levels as well.
And I think that would be a great opportunity, just because we have one of the best people with ICLE coming to us. She's very hard to secure. Thankfully, there was a past relationship, so we were able to bring her, but I would encourage, if you have the time, to see Denise White in action and see how our teachers and administrators respond to her.
I've taken note, and we'll send invitations. There's 2 more opportunities. I forget the dates. But we'll get them to you all.
Okay. Sounds like we're well on our way. Thank you for the update.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. The last information item is the Bond 2019 update. Mr. Lewis, Mr. Hilfer. Is Tony still there? Oh. Bill, you're all on your own. Although we do have Robin here. Okay, let him do it.
President Jimenez, Dr. Gutierrez, Board, thank you for letting us be here tonight to do a presentation. And for me, for any presentation to be successful, I got to make sure Pete's part of it. So I've done that tonight, so I'm excited about that. All right, so first I'd like to introduce Ms. Robin Popa. She's the lead architect on a couple of our projects. She's going to give you an update first on Stadium, AJB, and Jefferson. And then Pete will wow you with playground update, and then I'll follow up with the rest. We're pretty much in full swing on several projects, all going simultaneously, and so that's pretty exciting. Pretty busy. We had a great day today at AJB, working with about 35 or so staff members, 40 staff members throughout the day on the AJB project. So it's a lot of fun, very exciting. The staff, I think, is also excited about that. And the input, and they gave us a lot of good ideas today. So right now I'll have Ms. Popa come up and get started on the presentation.
President Thomas Jimenez, board members, Dr. Gutierrez, district staff, and guests. We are really delighted to be here today to give you all an update on where we're at with your 2019 bond program. And as Bill mentioned, I'm going to talk specifically about the 3 projects that Pfluger and PB Group are here contracted with the district to work on. With me tonight is Florin Popa with PB Group, and I may turn to him occasionally for some additional information to contribute towards tonight's presentation. So I'm officially putting him on notice right now. So as I mentioned, we are going to touch on Matador Stadium. We'll follow that with an update on A.J. Riesemeister Middle School, and then finish up our portion of the presentation with Jefferson Elementary.
So the project that we're going to start off talking tonight about, Matador Stadium, is the one that is showing the most progress. You will remember that we have been before you a couple of times already talking about the design and the process that we went through on conceptualizing and finalizing the intent of improvements for that facility. So we are 100% complete with design, which is to be expected because the contractor is on site. And we are also 100% complete bid with our bid and pre-construction services. We are about 10% complete with construction, and that is at the end of November, and that's based on the contractor's pay applications that they submit every month. We are currently slated to complete construction through in August of 2020. Recent activity, as mentioned, we have completed design bidding. We awarded the construction contract to F.A. Nunley. They were determined to be the best value contractor for the district. A construction notice to proceed was issued to them in September of this year. We have secured the building and site work permit, and most recently, what you may have seen actually taking place is the rather impressive demolition of the press box. And what's going on right now is demolition and extraction of the existing field. So just a brief reminder, this is the visual aids that we developed at the time that we presented the design for consideration and approval, schematically, or visually showing what we anticipate the completion of the facility to be. The upper left corner is the home side ticket entry. The lower left corner is a view of the home side bleachers as well as the press box. The upper right hand would be the concession stand underneath the visitor side of the stadium seating, and you can see the press box kind of in the distance. And then the lower right is a view of the press box if you were standing over by the high school. So that's going to be the side that faces the high school. As far as construction goes, this was an aerial that the contractor took in October of this year. You may not think anything's really happened, but until you look at the visitor side, then it becomes apparent that what was once there is no longer there. And then most recently, and fairly impressively, is this is the site right at the turn between November and December, where we're not really sure if it was taken November 30th or December 1st. It was right around that edge. But you can see that the home side and the field has been completely taken over and is a very active construction site. And for those who were not able to see this, this is a time-lapsed version of the actual demolition of the press box. I like to point out Sean Hoffman standing precariously on a bench during some rainy weather. And then it just really came down fairly quickly. And I think it was pretty surprising to everybody, just the speed by which that happened. So upcoming milestones, our schedule is on track, pun intended, for completion. Our field is anticipated to be complete and practice ready at the end of June of next year, with the remainder of the complex ready for occupancy and use in mid-August. These are dates that we did work out with both district staff and with the athletics department in full dialogue and discussion, and have the support of both the district and the athletic department with those dates. We are turning over the field early to promote summer practice, and part of that was a compromise on their behalf in giving up the field for spring sports, so allowing the contractor to take the field on and finding alternate locations for spring sports to compete in. At the time that we took proposals, we came in at $12.749 million, which was substantially under our $17 million budget, so that was good news for everybody. And as of today, with the contingency that we have allocated for the project, we have spent about $53,000, just a hair under $54,000 of the contingency, which is only about 14% of that fund. That is the contractor's project contingency within their dollar amount. What you may see from Tony or Bill
as they talk about the financials, is there's a separate contingency that's held outside of the construction contract that is purely the owner's contingency, and that's not the contingency that I'm referencing here. This is the contingency that the contractor has already calculated into his construction value, and it's a part of that $12.7 million. Before I move on, are there any questions about the stadium? All right. So AJ Briesenmeister, we've had a lot of really good progress very recently on this project. We are 100% complete with our survey and our pre-design efforts. We are about 11% complete with the design and the bid process. We will be going through design and bidding through December of next year. And construction, we are hoping to start January, February of next year. And right now I say to be determined on the length of time because we don't know that just yet. We're still working through finalizing kind of the design intent for this project, which will then inform the phasing of that project. But what I would like to point out, aside from having completed the surveys, is we've had a lot of meetings with the campus and the departments. So we had the first concept meeting held in early November. We came back a couple weeks later and had a second concept meeting. And then most recently, we actually, today, we had about an 8-hour-long continuous meeting over at the campus where we actually met with 45 of the folks from the campus. And we met independently with each department and really kind of did a deep dive onto their particular spaces, what was going to make their space most successful for them in both the way they teach and in the ways they want their students to learn. I think what was really great was the fact that we heard a lot about this collaborative learning environment and really developing a professional learning community, and this design that we're moving forward with really embraces that. The other thing I want to point out is that we took a select group of representatives from the district on some campus middle school tours to some local neighboring communities. We visited Resnick Middle School over in Southwest ISD, and we visited Piper Ranch Middle School for Comal ISD. And we had some really good feedback from the groups that went with us on that day about what they liked and what they didn't like about both of those campuses. And just to give you kind of a quick update, the things that they liked about Resnick Middle School for Southwest ISD was that each grade level had a designated house. So they were able to give an identity and a home for each grade level. So there was 6th grade, 7th grade, and 8th grade. What they liked about Piper Ranch, though, was the sense of community and collaboration that the building fostered. So we're taking kind of the good things of both of those schools and marrying them into the AJB project. So when we met with the campus and the department in our first design meeting, we actually had 4 schemes that we presented to them. And each of these has some challenges because we are working with an existing campus, so trying to create a sense of vibrancy and renewal while still operating within the limits of existing building constraints and a budget can be challenging at times. We didn't think that we would hit it out of the park when we met with them the first time, and actually we didn't. And that's not to be, that shouldn't be a surprise because this was really our first take at what can be done, and it was also a fact-finding and information gathering session so that the campus, the ultimate users of the facility, could tell us what worked about all these schemes and what didn't work. So we took that feedback, we went back to the drawing board, and we came back with 2 modified schemes that kind of took the input from that previous meeting, as well as the input from those campus visits that we took. And ultimately, what we came away with was that scheme 4, as we presented, was determined to be the best fit, both in learning culture as well as what can be done with existing buildings. With the exception of the fine arts wing, they thought that the configuration in scheme 5 was a better fit. So what's nice is we can just take that and plop it right into the middle of scheme 4, kind of pull it out and replace it, and we're off and running. And so this is the scheme that we refined a little bit. We've actually drawn it up in the computer. I don't know if you can tell, but these are hand sketches. And we sat down today and went through each department. Each one of those colors represents a department, whether it's general learning, athletics, cafeteria, fine arts, library, administration, special ed, CTE. And we met with each department and talked about what they need in their spaces to really make them the most usable and successful spaces for them. And then we also talked about what are the ultimate desires and goals for their spaces. Not that we're going to be able to satisfy all that, but if we have a sense of where they're wanting to go, maybe we can begin to set some groundwork and some framework for that. So upcoming milestones, as I talked about today, actually we had our departmental focused review. Tomorrow we are going to take our first foray into talking about construction phasing. We're going to be meeting with campus leadership as well as district leadership to kind of lay out a proposed construction phasing concept. Our next milestone is we will aim to complete schematic design, or SD, in January of next year. We will come to you at the January board meeting for an update on the design. And just roughly speaking, target dates, we're looking to get CD approval and approval to bid in November of next year at the regularly scheduled board meeting, so that the project will go out to bid over the Thanksgiving and Christmas holidays. We will open proposals after the new year in 2021 and have a board meeting recommending contractor selection, ideally in the January board meeting of that date. With all of that in place, and assuming that permitting goes as smooth as permitting can go, we anticipate having a notice to proceed issued to the contractor and hopefully actually start getting dirt moving in February of that year. Any questions on AJB?
Is there any way you could get the scheme 4 and 5 sent to us to where we can blow it up and look at it closer?
Yeah, absolutely. I think we have those documents we can provide to Mr. Lewis, and he can send those to you. Yes.
Quick question. Who in our school district is working with you on security of the campus?
So right now we haven't had any specific discussions about security specifics, I would say, as far as like where's card readers going to go and things of that nature. But having done the work with the secure vestibules the summer before, we have a pretty good sense of the security measures that are in place and that want to be in place for the secondary schools. And so working with Mr. Lewis and Mr. Pizzagna about properly allocating a secure vestibule and making sure that we're addressing line of sight issues, minimizing blind corners, things of a secure perimeter, things of that nature. All of that stuff we're taking into consideration right now.
Any other questions on AJB or the stadium? Okay.
So last but not least, Jefferson Elementary School. We are about 50% done with our survey and pre-design. We anticipate that will actually go through January of next year. We have not truly started any design efforts just yet as far as actual meetings with the campus or with the district. But what I would point out is that we're anticipating completing it by December of next year. Because as far as construction goes, it's kind of a similar story to AJB. Without really knowing the full amount of effort that we're going to do at Jefferson, I can't really give a construction time frame. So we gotta go through the design iteration first, and then the duration of construction will follow. But what I would point out is that the intended scope is, taking some imagery that you may have seen from the long-range facility planning effort. We are doing renovations to the south and the east wings, which in the long range for Jefferson are going to be some of the wings that remain on the campus. And so that $3.9 million that's indicated there was total project cost. It's not it's not construction cost. So recent activity, we completed the survey, and upcoming milestones, we'll complete our programming in January. We'll start our schematic design in February with design complete in November, And I want to point out that our goal is to bid this project simultaneously with the AJB project and give contractors the option of bidding one, the other, or both. So that might be pretty desirable for some of the larger contractors in the region because they can get two birds and have one management team, and there might be some cost savings that we can accomplish there with their general conditions. And with that, I'll take any questions for those projects.
Looks good.
Okay, great.
I'm not sure. Yeah. Robin's a tough act to follow. Can I borrow your table? Yeah, I went and got some visuals, so. Hi, good evening. Good to see you, President Thompson, Menace, board members, Dr. Gutierrez, thanks. It's a late night, but we're going to talk about fun stuff. So, it's been a while since we've talked about playgrounds. I think the last time we spoke was at a board workshop, and at that time I think we were talking about conceptual designs. So I want to walk you through what we have done. So in September, I twisted the arms of several people around central office, and we had a great committee of folks that interviewed some different vendors. And the idea there being that while a lot of the products that they offer are similar and function similarly, we wanted to try to figure out if we could get a team. This is funny because I can't see you guys now, but that's good. But, I did, yeah, it's good. So, so we wanted to get an idea of what kind of design services they would help us with, and what their unique kind of, what they brought to the table that was unique because the equipment is so similar. And we ended up landing on, I think we had a unanimous decision that we had a group that was based out of San Antonio that brought with them the ability to do the install and equipment manufacturing. So it was a big company. They're associated with Playcore. The ones that we're working with specifically are Park and Play Structures out of San Antonio. And so we really like what they brought to the table. As a matter of fact, Dr. Gutierrez, they came and spoke at a Rotary Club meeting. So there's community relationship with them as well. So we felt good about that. We then went and walked all of the campuses, trying to assess the equipment that we have on site, try to figure out where we could place new equipment, and really try to get a handle on what the plan will be. Because we have a monster of a job when we think about what we want to do on the school grounds. The bond package that we have designated for playgrounds is really going to take a good stab at that, but it's not going to get us to where we want to go. And so we knew that going in, so we wanted to be strategic about what we were going to replace, if anything, because we wanted to build capacity on the playgrounds as well. So we did that. We met with our architects, so we appreciate Lauren and Robin being a part of that, and we had the campus grounds surveyed as well. We then ended up with a basic design that we wanted to get community input. The School Health Advisory Committee last year, when we were giving an annual report, as one of their requests to you, was that they wanted to be the body that got to review the design. So we took that design to the School Health Advisory Committee and got some feedback. And then that created the design that you guys are looking at now. So we have designs that were, all of the schools are going to, well, with the exception of McQueen, and I'll talk more about that, but all of the schools are going to have the same basic equipment, but the principals have selected different color combinations. And I think all of them look really attractive. So that was a good idea that the vendor said, why don't you get the principals to get to pick the color? Because I wouldn't have picked those colors, but I think they all look really good. So they selected those, and I'm not, Bill, do we have a picture on the slide of any of the playgrounds so I can talk about what they are? Okay, so what you have, this picture is showing a different view of the main structure, and then I want to point out in the very back distance there's a little web climber as well. So the main unit that you're looking at has a capacity of 105 to 120 kids. And I want you to notice a few things. So we went into this with a goal of designing an inclusive space. So that meant that we wanted to have shade. We wanted to have safety surfacing that was going to be accessible to a mobility device, whether that's a walker, a wheelchair. We wanted that. We wanted to have not only play equipment that was potentially accessible, but we wanted it truly inclusive. So we wanted kiddos that would not otherwise be able to play with their able-bodied peers to have opportunity for that. So we have several pieces of equipment that are designed for anyone to use, truly anyone. So when you look down on the bottom right picture here, there's a little merry-go-round, and you guys remember the days when we were little on those merry-go-rounds, and it was a pretty good opportunity to get pretty messed up. This one is designed to be flush mount with the surface, so someone in a wheelchair can wheel into that, and that creates a much safer environment. No one's going to get pinned under it like we used to when we were kids, and it also allows for somebody in a mobility device to stand right next to an able-bodied peer, and that I think is just an amazing situation. Right next to that is a swing that is an inclusive design swing, but instead of it being a swing that looks like it's specifically designed for someone that might not have body control, it's a swing that's going to be attractive to anyone. And so some days you might go and see 4 or 5 able-bodied students on that, and some days you might see somebody that's wheelchair-bound in that swing. And so that's pretty fun to see as well. There's also a element on there that's at the far right of the top picture called All Aboard. And that's this big, it's almost like to look like a boat, but the whole thing can rock back and forth. And so, so that's another component of that. There's also different sensory areas up on the playscape itself. The design of this is called integrated shade, so instead of dropping a big shade structure over the whole thing, the shade is designed to shade the activity area and also cast shadows to create cooler spots around the playscape. You'll notice that it is a pour-in-place surface, so that's that rubberized surfacing that we hope to someday have most of our playscapes surrounded by that. The net climber that's in the back, that has a capacity of 25 to 40 kids. That's just a big spider web. So that's, again, one of those real important pieces that I think a child can come up to that and they can create their own sense of play in that. So it really is an open script on how they want to interpret their play in that area. All of our playgrounds are going to be National Demonstration Site certified. So for 2 things, one for the physical activity component, and that's called Play On, and then one for the inclusive design. So that's exciting. So we'll be listed on the registry as a demonstration site. Now I want to show, Bill, do we have a picture of McQueenie on the here?
We have it here, Steve.
Okay. All right. So McQueenie created an interesting situation. We have, at McQueenie, we wanted to be smart about spending dollars because we know that there's community concern about spending dollars on a campus that we're not going to be at forever. Now, the challenge with that is that we also want to do right by those kiddos that are maybe 3 years old right now that are going to have their whole elementary career potentially at McQueenie. So we know that. So there's a little bit of a juggling act there. Also, to keep in mind that playground equipment, really 12 to 15 years is what your expected lifespan is out of it. But so I think we've come up with a good design. there's a slab on the back of McQueenie that will allow us to purchase equipment that we bolt into place onto the slab, and then we're going to do a pour-in-place surfacing on top of that slab. And we are, in this situation, going to drop a shade structure over the top of it. So the idea being that we could pick up this equipment at any point if we decided that the usable life of the equipment justified doing that and move it somewhere. So if we can get real, maybe we replace McQueenie sooner than we think we can, and then we can make use of that equipment and put it somewhere else. We're also going to be adding several bays of swings, and you'll notice again there's an inclusive design on these swings, so they're going to be more attractive and more usable. So that's the different equipment area. All the other schools are going to look the same. Now, keep in mind, McQueenie still is going to allow us to meet those national demonstration site guidelines, so we're excited about that. So any questions about playgrounds? It'll be a fun project to start. Tomorrow we have 7 18-wheelers showing up, dropping off all of this equipment. So we have a laydown site designated over at Briesemeister, and so we're going to get to meet with them tomorrow and try to make sense of 7 18-wheeler loads of equipment. So
you can wear jeans tomorrow.
Okay. Thank you. Yeah.
Are you going to demonstrate to the kids how each?
Oh, I hope so. I hope so, and I hope you guys will come too. So it's going to be really exciting. We're not sure yet what school will be phased in first, but I think we'll make sure that we have a big opportunity to celebrate that. Yeah.
About how much of the equipment that we have now is usable or are we keeping?
So Weiner, we are going to take out that main structure. There's a main structure that is similar at every school, and I think the predominant color on it is purple, but not everyone agrees with me. But are you with me? Yeah, all right, good. So that purple structure, really I wish it could go at every site, but we're trying to build capacity, and Weiner is the one situation where we really need to remove it to drop the new one in that site. So at Weiner, that's going to go away. At McQueenie, some swings are going to go away, but that's about it. Most other schools, the equipment that's there is going to stay. Now, that's not to say that we want it all to stay, but what that's to say is that we're not going to spend dollars to pull stuff out when we don't have money to replace it at this point. So we're going to try to build that capacity, and then quite frankly, I'm going to be talking about more money for playgrounds for a long time. I mean, that's just going to be what we need to do. It's going to aesthetically improve the campus, and it's also going to help us to realize that the educational outcomes that we have for our students, or expected outcomes, are related to what our grounds look like too, not an afterthought. So we're going to start designing the school from the outside in and the inside out, and make that all work well. So it goes hand in hand with Link. We're super excited. We're going to enter in this spring with the last phase. So this will be the third cohort where we will district-wide be a Link district, and so and we're going to start to see some results from that too. So we're excited about that. It's going to be one of those really the opportunities for us to celebrate the success that comes in with new playgrounds, new stadium. I'm looking forward to the next 6 months. It's going to be pretty exciting. Yeah. All right, any other questions? No.
Thank you, Pete, for all of your efforts.
Thanks a lot.
Are we going to post those out?
You know, my plan on these is to take them to the campuses, but I would like to get something for central office, so I will come up with a plan that maybe has an example of some of them that says Seguin ISD playgrounds. So I'll ask our vendor to make that for us, and we'll make sure that that's here so we can celebrate that at the central office too. Yeah.
I think when the first one gets done, we should do a big photo op with big scissors. Big scissors.
Because it will be newsworthy. There are districts that have highlighted their inclusive playgrounds, but they're not to the level that this is going to be. We're going to be in a very unique situation.
Everybody tell Pete's really happy. Good thing. Just to kind of a quick wrap up on the additional projects, we had two other items on our bond initiative. One was $1 million for land for a future McQueenie, and then $1.7 million in additional projects and upgrades to the district. So right now in the land, we're still reviewing some sites. We're right in the middle of our rezoning, and so as we kind of get that piece a little more closer to finalizing and presenting something to the board, that'll kind of help us also maybe hone in on a site for McQueenie. We are definitely talking to some developers that have land already. There's some advantages with going with land that a developer owns, and then there's advantages, some advantages with just buying raw land. But you have to look at things like location, type of access it has on roads, drainage, what kind of utility it has. So there's a lot of different pieces to look at, and that will impact the cost. So we haven't settled on that. Once we have some choices, I'll make sure we bring that, and we'll have a discussion about that when we get there. For the 1.7, we're looking at, we haven't decided on any projects, but we started making a list, and I just kind of want to share what some of those items are, and then we will bring those to the board for approval as we want to ask for approval to move forward. So some of the things that need to be done that we've listed, Barnes is coming up on 18 years old, and so the 18 years old. So the air conditioning systems are also 18 years old, and so those start to fail, and so just kind of be on top of those and replace it. We have some boiler replacements at Potline and Kinnicky that need to be done. We have HVAC controls. Those are the systems that kind of do the environmental controls. Some of ours are way outdated, and we want to upgrade some of the back ends or the front ends of those controls. We do have some rooftop repairs at Ball and Barnes that need to be done. There's a small repair that needs to be done in the McQueenie gym structure that just needs to be taken care of, even though you can't say it just needs to be taken care of, a structural piece. We're talking about, now that we're going to have all these accessible playgrounds, we need to actually make the playgrounds accessible. And so there would be some sidewalk work to get safely from the building to the playground, so you're not going over uneven roads, uneven surfaces, and then there's some challenges to some campuses for that, and getting that done, and then some concrete work around the playgrounds to kind of hold in the shape and hold those pour in place as well. And also something that's important is security lighting on the outside of the school. We're looking at doing LED lighting upgrades throughout the district in parking lots. So getting all those parking lots well lit, and just have a safer space when our hardworking staff comes out, especially in the evenings. So or early in the morning. There were definitely, I was at early at AJB this morning. There were people at AJB, really early in the morning, and then leaving. There's always people coming out late. So these are just some ideas, some things we're going to probably start bringing to the board. To 1.7 million is a lot of money, but it goes quick when you're talking about large projects.
And these are part of the comprehensive facility committee.
So these are all things that have been identified. These aren't necessarily part of the long-range facility plan, but they were part of the bond planning when we set aside $1.7 million for other district projects, because when we did our TASB study, we have page after page after page of projects and upkeep that needs to be done. And so these are some things we can do with that bond money that are kind of large capital improvements that have long-term value. Sidewalks, air conditioning, those have a long lifespan, and so that's what we're looking at, projects to spend that money on that are large capital improvements and replacements.
I just wanted to clarify that in case someone's listening, watching,
Sure.
that these are part of that bond package, and there's still more things that we need to take care of.
This doesn't even scratch the surface.
I know.
So these are things that need to get done. Some of these maybe we come in
in fund balance requests, because we may or may not be able to meet all these with this money. We're in the process of getting quotes and trying to understand. I mean, a replacement of air conditionings at Barnes is an upward of like $500,000. I mean, it's a large purchase. So
It's like just Barnes alone is 84 units, rooftop units. We're talking about.
Yes, ma'am.
I have a question on that note, 18 years old, Barnes.
Is that right?
Sure, there must be some,
Coming up on 18 years old.
Yes, oh yeah.
so there's gotta be some more energy efficient units out there by now.
Absolutely, and we do. We purchase efficient units, just like we did at Seguin. And so we plan on bringing a bond update monthly to the board. The January one will probably focus more on AJP, because there's not going to be a whole lot between now and our next board meeting, which comes up early too in the month. So I think we have to have our board agenda items in like 2 days after we get back from break. But we'll have some updates monthly, and as well we continue to update our bond oversight committee as well, and we post those documents. The budget, et cetera, is all on the bond 2019 site under bond oversight committee. So those documents and presentations are all available, as well as this one on our board documents. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, next up is our consent agenda items, and these are of a recurring or routine or recurring nature. It can be acted upon one action item. And these are the things that are listed this evening. The approval of board minutes of the regular meeting, November 19th, 2019. Approval of tax collection reports for November 2019. Approval of proposed budget amendments and financial statements for November 2019. The approval of donations received for November 2019. And to adopt the resolution for the assignment of fund balance. Would anybody like to see any of those pulled for individual consideration? Okay, if not, do I hear a motion for approval? Okay, we have a motion from Mr. Jenkins and a second from Mr. Amador. No further questions. Everybody in favor, please raise your right hand. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries 7-0. And last but not least, in our action items, we have a personnel action for professional employees. And Cindy, it's your debut. Good to see you.
Good evening. Are we good? All right. Good evening, President Jimenez, Board of Trustees, and Dr. Gutierrez. We are bringing before you recognition and acknowledgement of 4 professional hires. We have Larissa Christian at Barnes Middle School. She's going to be our new AVID teacher. We have Liliana Garcia, a special education teacher that will be at Seguin High School, along with Jason Kowalski, who's going to be an English 1 teacher at Seguin High School. And we also have a SPED behavior teacher, Stacy Lightfoot, that has 20 years of experience joining the Seguin team.
Are these all replacements?
Yes,
These are
ma'am.
new positions?
Yes, ma'am. Jason Kowalski is one of the new sections that you guys approved.
Okay.
English 1 teacher.
All right. Yeah, we need him. Any questions? All right. I'd like to entertain a motion for approval. Mr. Amador, second from Ms. Duncan. No questions? All right. All in favor, raise your right hand. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries 7-0. Thank you.
Thank you.
Get these people working next semester. Oh, they are. Well, some of them are already working. Yes, a couple of weeks. Or, yeah, almost a month. Okay. Moving on to our board comments and requests. Does anybody have any comments or requests for the staff? Mr. Jenkins?
I'd like to say it's exciting times at Seguin ISD, seeing the projects come together and start to move forward with the bonds and so forth. So thanks everybody for your hard work and getting that going. Thank you.
I agree wholeheartedly. Really exciting. Anybody else? All right, Nancy, if you have something you'd like to bring up here. We have a gift for Dr. Gutierrez. Yes, each of the trustees purchased something for you, and we're hoping that you will. Yeah, it doesn't go pop. We're hoping that you will be delighted. You have to,
One of us gave you each thing.
yes, you have to guess.
But it's show and tell.
Show and tell time now.
Okay.
They're all in little bags that you have to open individually. If you'd like me to help you, I will.
Okay.
Okay.
More socks.
I saw he got some this morning.
Yes, they beat us to it.
Oh. Peanut butter and jelly. Linda?
No.
Glinda? I'm not very good at this. Carl? They do, they notice everything. Tacos.
Don't even look this
I have to. Glinda? Denise? Well, I do love tacos, especially Alex's tacos. Oh. These have a kettlebell and a dumbbells on them. Glinda.
Not because you're a dumb. No.
Uh-oh. Caution tape. Cindy? Ben. Denise. Alejandro. That was. Books. Denise?
Yes.
I knew it.
I'm like, when you get to mine, you'll know.
Every day of the week.
Hello.
I gotta see those though.
Oh, do you? Okay.
You only have two people left.
I know. Cindy?
No.
Ben? Wow, very thoughtful. Thank y'all. I think I'm out of room in my sock drawers.
Okay. On that note, we will adjourn this meeting at 9:09 if everyone is okay with that. Everybody's good, okay, 9:09, thank you. Merry Christmas, everybody.